All right, hello everybody out there in YouTube slash Podbean slash iTunes. This is the Comic Crossovers podcast, Geeked Out Nation's original comic book podcast. We are up to episode 24. Yay! So we are the editors of Geeked Out Nation's comic book section. Usually we are joined by our editor-in-chief, Steven, but he unfortunately is not with us tonight. He'll be back next week, though. So tonight it's just me. I'm Jess Camacho, and say hello to my co-host. Introduce yourself.
I am Jadobi.
He is Jadobi, a.k.a. our resident Cyclops expert. Okay, so, we're not... So we have just a few news topics for you today, and then we're also going to review a few comics. This week we're going to review Batman Eternal, Superior Spider-Man, yay!
Long live Superior.
Yay! And Nailbiter number 4, which is basically becoming my favorite, like, anything. So, as always, we'll start the week off with talking about the books we picked up, and who knows, maybe we'll get into like a mini review of some of them. So I guess I'll start. So on top of the 3 books that we're going to review today, I also picked up from a couple of really independent publisher books. I picked up Enormous number 2, which is an amazing monster book. It's like, I don't want to, make fun of Godzilla too much, but it's really a human story with the monsters in the backdrop. And, this week this week's second issue of the entire series took the time to actually set up the monsters and make them more of a threat while keeping the human aspect, which I think is definitely the kind of thing you want to do with a series like this. I also picked up Rachel Rising, which, if you're not reading Rachel Rising, you are not a horror fan. That is definitely a book you need to pick up. It's criminally underrated, and it was great this week. I also picked up Steven Universe number 1, which was really weird. That's all I can say for that. I picked up Big Trouble in Little China 3, Clockwork Angels 4, Woods number 4. Also, unfortunately, I've had to drop Action and Superman Wonder Woman until Doomed is over. It's going on far too long. Picked up, it's just going on too long. It's like this should have been done a couple weeks ago. It's like, and I hate it because it's like I love Superman Wonder Woman, and it's killing me. Picked up Ferris 28, Grayson number 2. And let's see, from Dynamite had a couple of really interesting books this week. Captain Victory and the Galactic Rangers, which is a Jack Kirby creation brought back to life, which is kind of becoming a trend. Chastity number 2, Flash Gordon number 4, Vampirella 3, Terminal Hero number 1, which was like the guy version of Lucy. Squitter number 2, Lazarus 10, Alex and Ada number 8, which is such a beautiful book, and that one was really sad this week. Madam Frankenstein number 4, which is like, when you're thinking of mini-series that are going on right now, Madam Frankenstein is like right under Alex and Ada. It's very good. And then Marvel was not a ton for me this week. There wasn't a ton of Marvel for me this week. I picked up the finale of Kick-Ass. That was a thing that happened. Original Sin 5.3, which at this point I cursed the day those solicitations came out because I'm not interested anymore. I feel like I already read this. She-Hulk number 7. And then my pick of the week, Earth 2. I gave it a perfect 10 on the site, so you want to go check out that review. Perfect ending to that storyline. criticize DC for these weekly series, but this is the Earth 2 weekly series is the one I'm actually excited about. It actually took its time to set it up and get you really pumped for it, so I'm very excited. So I also, Jadobi, you'll probably talk about this one, but Injustice also came out. So with that, you want to go into your picks?
Yep. Okay, for me there was Harbinger's Omega's #1, which pretty much shows. For me, reading Harbinger's Omega is like reading what happens when Magneto actually succeeds taking over the world. Let's see. Knuckleheads #8, which is an independent book from Monkey Brain, which is a story about a guy named Trez and his 3 other friends, who they call the Knuckle Friends, and it's a fun adventure that really had a good ending, kind of leading him up from a really crappy hero that really shouldn't have had the kind of power he does, to kind of understanding the responsibility he has, and he's not alone that hard things are going to be for him later on. Angel and Phase 10 #5, which focus on which was on because it kind of, because Angel and Faith has but this what's going on with the Zompires. Black Widow #9, #18 was another issue where you just had to laugh because of Harley Quinn, and there were some other good moments worth reading. Legendary Star-Lord #2, which I've really enjoyed so far, just because you finally have half-sister who's a color. But what's specific about this issue is that he see how she flares up, and she actually brings up the point that she's just like him, except that she had a harder time because of her skin color. Miles Morales, the Ultimate Spider-Man #4. Someone just please tell me that Peter's dead. Tell me Peter's dead.
I have no idea what is happening with that storyline. Like, seriously, no idea.
I don't know. It's just one thing after the other, and just like, what?
It's crazy.
Yeah. Moon Knight #6, Original Sin 3.4, Hulk vs. Iron Man #4, which I really liked the conclusion to it. It really didn't end. It didn't end the way I thought it would, and that's also good. It wasn't as predictable as you think, and of course, I which I'm also a little more excited for Captain America, which.
You're breaking up. I think we have lost Jadobi. You there? All right, guys. Unfortunately, I think we've lost. Oh, you there? I think we lost you there for a minute. Yeah, you're breaking up pretty bad. Yeah, I didn't catch the end of that.
No.
Yeah, I didn't catch the end of that. I think you broke up too bad. You might be able to fix that by going audio only.
Yeah. Let's see.
Google Hangout, guys. That's Google Hangout for you.
Yep. Okay, where did I stop?
That is tech. I think you were talking about Captain America.
Yeah, which Luke Ross's art makes me excited for Captain America and the Mighty Avengers, which comes out about a Original Sin 3.5, Thor Loki number 3, Rocket Raccoon number 2, Skyman Volume 1 trade paperback,
Hmm.
Superman and Wonder Woman Annual number 1, which I just I have the same feelings toward old Doom thing as well.
But that's my problem with it though. It's like I last Superman Wonder Woman, I tried to read just that. Because action is not one that I'm always caught up on, so I was already like an issue behind. And it's just like I don't this is why I don't like tie-ins all that much because or crossovers because I don't like that I'm missing a series that I frequently like to read. Like I love what Charles Soule is doing with Superman Wonder Woman and I'm like what do you want me to do with this, man? It's middle of like an event. I can't even read this.
Yep. Um, shoot, where did I step off again? My brain is not functioning. Okay,
Superman
Swamp,
Wonder Woman.
Superman, Wonder Woman, Annual number 1, and then Swamp Thing number 34, which concludes
Oh,
the
it was good.
Wolf and the Lady. I really just loved. I love what just
That was
everything that
good.
went on with these two. They were fun up until the very end.
That was good. That was good. I
Yeah.
knew some huge stuff was going to happen with them, though, and I figured it was going to end that way for all three of them, because I couldn't imagine it not being that way for the three of those characters.
It's just not their world.
No, no, that's I don't know. It's just and now the Arcanes are coming back. They've been teased.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they have been teased. I believe that they showed up in a solicitation, and obviously, as everyone knows, the everything takes a 1 month break next month for September for the Futures End stuff. So, like, after that happens, anybody that really wanted to get into any DC series, that'll be your time to do it,
Yep.
which is awesome, honestly, because there's definitely a couple things that I think I might get into just stuff that I'm not reading that I might just jump into because I'll be able to. So I mean that's awesome.
Me
Um,
too.
yeah, I mean DC like I know World's Finest will be something you can jump into. Earth 2 you can jump into. Batman you'll be able to jump into. I think by the time that's over, Superman Wonder Woman will be back on track, so you'll be able to jump into that. There's just gonna be a ton of stuff to get into.
Uh, and while we're still in Swamp Thing number 34, I think it's good to mention that little discussion we had earlier, where it was actually brought up that where some people tried to mention how there's this thing with nature and evil, or and just the fact that Lady Weeds was evil, and this was dealing with nature, and as a and I just don't see how that happened when this was something that both she and the wolf took part in. It's
I, I yeah, no, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I think what people forget about Swamp Thing is that these are the avatars of the green. At some point, these were all human beings. So you have to include that human aspect to any of the characters, regardless of if they're an avatar or not. Former avatars like Lady Weeds and the Wolf, when they become human, the only thing that's changed about them is that they don't have the powers. When they were the Avatar, when before they died, they brought those human qualities into being the Avatar. So if someone was evil, it's very, very almost certain that they're going to still have some of those evil qualities. To think that she's tied to nature, that she should immediately be a good guy, I reject that because you're taking the human aspect out of it. And if not to be mean, but if this were about nature and being happy in nature, this would be an incredibly boring book.
Yep, it really would.
I
And
think that's where people lose their train of thought there.
mhm. And they forget a lot of the story since the whole Rot World thing has been a struggle to keep his humanity. And you see just what happens when you kind of lose it along the way, like Lady Weeds and the Wolf.
Yeah, I mean, Alec Holland has his own shortcomings as a human being. He's
Hmm.
not evil, but he has his shortcomings as a person. The only difference between being the person and being the avatar of the green is that you now are given the powers and you're given the intuition with the green itself. So it's like you can't take the human aspect out of it because that would be boring. I wouldn't read that book.
Yep.
And even with Poison Ivy, she is not the nicest of people. She has the human part to her on top of the powers that she has. You just can't take that out because it's nature and we should be protecting the environment. If you really think about it, the Wolf and Lady Weeds were big supporters of protecting the environment because they were the avatar of the green. But they
Mhm.
also had their own desires and wants and needs and evil things that they had planned, and they were going to do them regardless. The power just made it easier.
Yep. Exactly.
I mean, it's just I don't know. That whole idea just is so weird to me.
It really is. 'Cause it's like you turn them into avatars. They lose their humanity. They come back as humans with that humanity, and they just don't know how to handle that. And that's how everything just falls apart.
Exactly. I mean, it makes you see how complicated a book like Swamp Thing is. And it makes you see how complicated characters with superpowers in general can be when they're written correctly. Because no, unfortunately, not everything is sunshine and roses. Sometimes you have characters with superpowers who are not the greatest of people, and the powers just exacerbate that.
Hmm.
I mean,
Exactly.
you'd almost think it's basic. It's like almost you'd almost think it's common knowledge to have that idea in your brain already. But there's almost like this misconception that anybody superpowered is immediately a superhero.
That's true.
And not to get too off topic, but I believe we both read the New Avengers.
Yep.
That is the perfect example of people who have superhuman abilities that may not necessarily be using them for the best purposes. The New Avengers, they have been destroying whole planets
Yep. Oh,
and
I
calling it heroics.
Yep. I completely forgot to add that to the list. That was one of the ones I forgot. Number 22.
I mean, as much as like we are all sort of hyping up Doctor Strange and hyping up Black Panther and even Namor, they're a part of this group. They have powers, and they are not the best of people at
Hmm.
this moment. And I think that's what makes that whole book exciting, and then that just brings up how superpowers don't necessarily equal superhero, and there's a lot more psychological stuff going on, and that's what makes a good book. As fun as things like She-Hulk are, you sort of need to get down to the nitty gritty with some of these more darker characters because there's a lot underneath there that makes a lot of sense.
Just the way Namor was written, I was speechless. You just see him. He accepts who he is. He accepts the things he has to do. He calls them all monsters. He calls himself a monster. He says we do all these things. We call ourselves the heroes, but we're really no better than an ant. It's just crazy.
Exactly, and I think that's just something we all have to keep in mind when we read any characters with superpowers. I mean, even Invincible, which is an Image book, Robert Kirkman writes this, and that book has done a lot with examining people with superpowers. And if anything, Invincible is more like a real world than something like New Avengers or Swamp Thing. And that has many characters that are just the worst of people. I mean, superpowers don't equal you're now going to go save the world. For every Spider-Man, for every Spider-Man, there's a Lady Weeds. There's always that one bad guy, or there's always that Doctor Doom or that Thanos that's going to use the power they have to do the worst things they can possibly imagine.
Yep. Or if you're talking about the Dark Horse universe, or a shared world, then you're talking about all these people who somehow stumbled across things, these different advancements that Captain Midnight created, and they just turned into their own weapons, or just manipulated in ways that only profit themselves.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's superheroes are not, basically what we're saying is superheroes are not so simple on the surface. There are many of them that are, but there are many that have more, they have a lot more depth to them when you really look at the things that they do and the people they're surrounded with.
Yep.
All right. So I guess what we'll do is we'll jump into some of the brief happenings in comics this week. Released today, Marvel had announced that they were going to do a 75th anniversary omnibus, and that all the contents would be voted on by the fans. So this was either going to turn out really, really good or really, really bad, and it's a little of both. So the list goes as such. It's omnibus, so there's a lot. Fantastic Four #1, 48 through 50 and 285. Hulk #1. Avengers #1 and 57. Amazing Spider-Man 33 through 31, 50, 121 through 122. That includes the night Gwen Stacy died. Incredible Hulk 181. Giant Size X-Men #1. X-Men 141. Uncanny X-Men 142, which comprises those two comprise Days of Future Past. Daredevil 181. Marvel graphic novel 1 and 5. Thor 337. Marvel's #1. X-Men Alpha. Thunderbolts #1. Amazing Spider-Man from 1999 #36. The Ultimates #1. Hawkeye #11. Captain America 25 circa 2005. And then materials from Captain America Comics #1, Amazing Fantasy #15, and Amazing Spider-Man #248 and #700. So basically what you're getting here is you're getting the first appearance of Fantastic Four, first appearance of the X-Men, first appearance of the Ultimates, the death of Captain America. Hawkeye #11 is the pizza dog issue. And Amazing Spider-Man #700 is the one where effectively Peter dies. So I have my own mixed feelings about this. I don't know. How do you feel about this?
How I feel,
Yeah.
I just feel that I'm glad we don't reach any higher than 50 anymore. I'm just reading this and I'm like, really? And then I'm just slowly realizing we actually went that high, that we could reach numbers like 337 and 700. I'm like, what?
Wait, so hold on. So this is actually a very interesting point that you bring up. So you are not, are you okay with the high numbering, or are you against the high numbering? Because I'm not gonna disagree. I sort of am, but I am curious because I've actually never heard anybody who's been reading comics as long as you have say that you don't like the high numbering.
I'm just saying that when you were actually explaining what each of the issues were, I'm really just looking at these like, okay. I really didn't know what some of these stood for, what actually happened in some of these issues. I'm not a numbers guy, so I'm usually gonna need something next to the issue to actually tell me what it is.
No, I mean, no, I just, it's amazing because I know a lot of older fans just hate the fact that there's so much renumbering that happens. So it almost like it's actually kind of cool to hear that, like, you're almost saying the numbers don't matter to you.
Nope, not really.
Yeah, no, it's kind of cool.
Just put the date next to it, like they have on this list, and I'm good.
Yeah, no, I mean it's cool. I mean, but so overall, like, how do you feel about the contents of the the omnibus? Now, keep in mind these were all fan voted.
Oh, I like the content. It's these are memorable stuff. Some of it memorable.
I was about to say because for the life of me, I have read the entire first two parts of the Ultimates run. I do not know what happened in the Ultimates #1.
I don't
I
know what happened.
cannot tell you why that's important. In the history, if you're looking at it from the perspective of the importance of the 75 years of that Marvel has existed, how is the Ultimates #1 part of that?
It really didn't get it didn't get that exciting for me till Disassembled. Like
Like,
that was when shit hit the fan and I loved it.
it's extremely crazy for some. I can't figure out. I have no problem with things like Days of Future Past being included. I'm actually surprised there's not as much X-Men in it, given the history of Marvel and the Dark Phoenix saga. Jean and Emma's whole like flip flop, like their whole thing with getting with Cyclops, not being with Cyclops, having whatever issues they have with each other. I'm surprised that stuff didn't get in there. I'm also surprised there's like no Wolverine.
Yep.
Do you know what that says? That says that people are oversaturated with Wolverine. They didn't put him in the 75th anniversary omnibus. And I also, I feel bad for this, but I kind of question Hawkeye 11 as well. Because when I actually did send the list in for this, because I had picks, I didn't pick anything before 1980. Because I figured this is supposed to be a celebration of Marvel, and this is supposed to be what makes Marvel Marvel. So I thought of it as important books, that something I could see myself talking about 50 years from now when I'm an old lady. And, like, right now, not disparaging any of the amazing work that's going on now, but nothing stuck out to me as that important.
Yep.
Like, even Amazing Spider-Man 700. That didn't stick out to me because that was undone. Quickly, mind you. You know, that was, like, barely 2 years.
Long live Superior.
I mean, that was barely 2 years. So that just, I mean, and the other thing, too, is who's buying this?
That's what I was thinking.
And I don't mean that in a nasty way, because I'm thinking, like, you buy an omnibus. You buy it because it's, like, the entire Chris Claremont run on X-Men, right? On Uncanny X-Men. You're buying it because it's, like, the full run of somebody legendary, of books you can't get singles of, or a full story. That's why you buy it. This isn't a full story. This is like a grab bag. And an Omni is like $150. So, and I mean, DC did this too with those Superman, Lois Lane, Batman, Joker books. They're just reprints.
Exactly.
It's just a grab bag. So, like, like, who's buying this? I don't know. Alright, so we're not excited about this omnibus. I mean, we're just like, this is a thing that's going to happen.
Pretty much.
The cover's gorgeous, though.
If they buy it, they buy it.
I mean, the cover is pretty awesome. So, alright, so we'll move on to a couple of new books that are going to be launched. So from this is Dark Horse. So from Dark Horse Comics, The Mask, the Jim Carrey movie, that was originally a comic book, and it's getting relaunched, but not in the sense that you would think. It's getting relaunched as one of the itty bitty books. Franco and Art Baltazar, who do the itty bitty Hellboy books, and they did a couple of one-shots with other characters from the Dark Horse line, and Dynamite. They've done this a bunch of times. I mean, they did a Red Sonja one, which was, like, so adorable. So The Mask is getting relaunched as an all-ages book, and, I mean, Art Baltazar and Franco do, like, an amazing job with how it looks and everything. So I don't know if this is gonna lead to, like, a more mature Mask book later on, but it's definitely gonna stick with the humor from the Jim Carrey movie.
I know that if it did spin out into a mature book, I would buy it without question.
I have to admit, I knew that it was a comic, but I know nothing of the Mask comic. Nothing of
Yeah,
it. I have no idea what the tone was like. I have no idea. But I lately have taken a liking, maybe like the last few months or so, to all ages books. Things like Captain Ultimate, Lumberjanes, Samurai Jack. Actually, the whole IDW Cartoon Network universe. And, they're funny when
hmm
they're good. It's like watching a cartoon. So I think I'll check this one out because I do like it. I like all ages because they can be very funny and they're meant to be funny. Sometimes they
Yep.
could come off a little bit too childish, but I'm gonna give this one a shot. I'm gonna read the first issue.
Yeah, I'll definitely read this one because they have gotten the recognition for their all ages titles, so it's
Yeah,
might as well.
yeah. Itty Bitty Hellboy is really funny. Just because it's like you have these characters that are always like they are involved like in the darkest stuff possible in their main series. People dying, they're demons, they have powers, they basically work in hell, and it's like it's itty bitty, so it's funny and it's cute and it's for kids and it's just it's so cool in its own way. So I'm interested.
hmm
All right, so another book that's getting ready to launch, and my guesses were totally off. I don't even know why this didn't occur to me. Okay, so on Geeked Out Nation, as you saw, we had some teaser images that Boom Studios has sent out to all press outlets, and they were basically blacked out news articles about important events in history. JFK assassination, the moon landing, and it all turns out like it's got something to do with the Illuminati and so now that we mentioned Illuminati, by the way, we are now a part of the Illuminati conspiracy, just so you know. But so it turns out that those teasers are for a new series from Justin Jordan and Ariella Cristantina. Let me make sure I say it right. Cristantina, called Deep Slate. It is an ongoing series. It is about a character named John Harrow who works for the government as a secret keeper, traveling the United States to ensure the nation's deepest and darkest experiments stay hidden from the public eye. I actually thought this was the Grant Morrison book, just because it's crazy. It had everything to do with conspiracies and cover-ups, and it like sort of screamed Invisibles to me. But no, it is not Grant Morrison, but it's still a very good writer and somebody who's like sort of becoming a star, Justin Jordan. So this is the second of his 3 Boom Studio books. I'm all over this. I'm a political science major, so I'm really into history, and like conspiracies and stuff is always cool to read about because despite the holes the theories have, you kind of see where they can actually happen, and it's always makes for an entertaining read. So I'm on board for this. I love this.
I think I'm gonna give it a try too because for me, I read Brain Boy, and while the recent story arc didn't exactly catch me, I still liked most of the series, which deals with intelligence, and this looks to take that to take another step in that on that level, and it sounds like an exciting concept, so I will definitely give it a try.
Yeah, I'm really into this. So yeah, so you're gonna want to watch out for that one. That's gonna be out in the fall, I believe, November 12th. So almost the winter. All right, so the last little bit of news we have is like really sort of a very small thing. Marvel did it, I think, a year and a half ago, maybe, and now DC's going to do a line of it, which is awesome because they'll match. DC's doing November variant covers themed Lego ones. They're doing Legos. The following titles are going to have Lego variants. Action Comics 36, Aquaman 36, Batgirl 36, Batman 36, Batman and Robin 36, Batman Superman 16, I Promise No More Batman, Catwoman, Detective Comics, Flash, Harley Quinn, Grayson, Green Lantern Corps, JLU, Justice League Dark, New Teen Titans, Sinestro, Supergirl, Superman, Wonder Woman, and Wonder Woman. I am going to have all of them. Because they're not going to be rare, they're not incentives. So you go to your local comic book shop and it'll be either or.
Yep.
Which is awesome. That's how the bombshell covers were ones that I collected. I think like people make fun of DC for these variant covers, but like it's not like you have to buy it. Like, why make a thing of it?
Exactly. You have a choice.
It's not like they're saying, well, we're going to force you to pay $1 extra and you're going to buy this. But if you go to a bigger store, they don't charge you extra.
Mm-hmm.
Which we talked about before, depending on how many covers they get, you know.
Yep. Exactly.
I think
gimmick is a gimmick is a gimmick. It's only a gimmick if you buy into it.
Yeah, and I mean, and you know, if you don't like it, so be it. You know, and if you do like it, then awesome. You know, you're getting a cool little cover that you like. I have a couple of the Marvel ones from a while back, so it'll be kind of cool to have the matching DC ones. But I think it's cool. I'm just a little sad that that Birds of Prey is not getting relaunched. Not yet.
Oh, really? Oh, not
yeah,
yet.
not yet.
Still holding out hope.
I'm still holding out hope. So you know there won't be one of those, but I just see a lot of, I mean, just not to rant on too long about this, but you know I see a lot of negativity towards DC when they do these variants, and at the end of the day, the reason they keep doing it is because people keep buying it. So you're in the minority, you know, you're in the minority whining and complaining about something that obviously most people like. So you know, just get over it. You still get your regular cover.
Mm-hmm.
It is what it is. I mean, the only one that I'm really sad that there isn't a cover for is Batwoman. That would be an awesome Batwoman like Lego cover. But yeah, so that's all of the news that's basically all the news we had for this week. We're gonna briefly talk about one thing because it's being reprinted. So you're being warned now about spoilers about Guardians of the Galaxy. So if you're listening, skip ahead about 5 minutes or turn it off. We prefer you to skip ahead though.
Okay.
So it came out this week that Marvel is reprinting the Howard the Duck omnibus. I'm not sure what it contains, but I'm going to assume it's the full run because Howard the Duck did not run that long. And as you know, if you're still listening, as you know, Howard the Duck was the cameo in the post-credit scene for Guardians of the Galaxy, which that is a whole other thing I'll get into another day. But nevertheless, it was funny. Comic fans really enjoyed it. And, you know, they're reprinting the omnibus. So clearly this is them gauging reader reaction. Are people interested in Howard the Duck? And if so, will people buy it? Now, I think I don't know. Let me ask you first what you think of possibly Marvel gauging the reaction about Howard the Duck.
I mean, it's worth it. I mean, the fact of the matter is, Rocket Raccoon has cruel humor. Howard the Duck is more, how would I put this? Cruel humor. Then Howard the Duck is more just more of a smart ass, just smart alecky humor. So you, it's if you're going to start pushing characters like Rocket Raccoon, it's like might as well do the same with Howard the Duck. It might work over with throwing in a lot more adult humor and trying to see if you can appeal to that side that where people can laugh at something that's a little dark, that has that dark mix to it. I mean, it could work. You just gotta make sure that you're not overselling it.
I here the thing with Howard the Duck is Howard the Duck was originally a series where it was this duck and he had an adult life. And a lot of the humor and situations came out of just normal stuff you do in your everyday life. Sort of like Hawkeye. But
Yep.
Hawkeye has that superhero twist. I think a Howard the Duck comic, even a miniseries, give it a shot.
Exactly.
First off, I thought the cameo was genius, and I love the way he looked, and I love that Seth Green did his voice. And I think if you got the right writer behind Howard the Duck, now I'm not saying he's getting a 50-issue ongoing or a movie or a TV show. I'm just saying if you wanted to make a funny comic with Howard the Duck, then it could be done. And I suggest that Marvel go give Matt Fraction a call and say, hey, do you want to write Howard the Duck? Because that is the only way this happens. Matt
And then,
Fraction would write the greatest Howard the Duck comic we'd ever read in our lives.
and then his Twitter handle will change to Butt Stuff McQuack.
And that would be the greatest Twitter handle ever. I think it could work if it's given a very, not completely adult spin, but a more grown-up spin. This is not, I don't want it to be the kind of book you give to your 4-year-old, because that's not what Howard the Duck is. That's not what he ever was. I mean, the George Lucas movie kind of tarnished him for, like, ever, but that's not who he was. So I think Marvel should give it a shot, because clearly comic fans enjoyed the cameo. Movie fans didn't, but movie fans are a whole other bunch of people that bother me. But I say give it a shot. I say give it a shot. All right, so I guess we'll move into our reviews now. We have 3 books we're going to review. Jadobi, would you like to start us off with Batman Eternal?
Okay, with Batman Eternal, we pretty much see a balance that goes from what's going on with what's his name, Bard,
Mm-hmm.
Lieutenant Bard, as he kind of addresses the public now that he's taken over pretty much. And it's pretty, and in his side of the story more so has to do with gaining the trust of Batman, because even as things are looking better, Batman still suspects that there's something else going on that he's just not seeing, and it might have to do with Bard, who seems to have a lot of access to information that's questionable, and his motivations seem questionable in general, which also leads to them teaming up with Killer Croc,
Yeah.
who kind of surprises you just by the things he does and his attitude towards what's going on in Gotham and what's happening to people that apparently he cares for. And on the flip side, we get a little more excitement towards this team up between Batwoman, Red Hood, and Batgirl as they look to prove Commissioner Gordon's innocence. So I think that there was a good balance between these two stories, and this is definitely that part that you really would rather see than whatever is going on with Batwing. Who's the guy in the green? I keep forgetting his name.
Um.
and or whoever she is, and Joker's daughter.
Oh, Jim Corrigan. Yeah. Um. I actually wish we had stuck with that storyline for another issue
Got it out the way.
and kind of concluded that because I finally did actually get on board with that storyline. I at first thought it was like the worst one of the bunch. But it really worked out for me at the end because I feel like it started getting some traction. Only because I like the idea, and I talked about this before on my Twitter. I like the idea of a bad pastor taking advantage of Gotham City people, because I think that in itself could be a really compelling story. And it got into Magic, and it got into Jim Corrigan, who is the Spectre, and it was really picking up some traction. And 52 also did this, so it's not unknown. It's not unheard of for weekly series to do this, but it's jumping around. So, I mean, I wasn't crazy about this issue. I honestly wasn't, only because I felt like we should just stuck with that storyline for another week. And then I also feel like the Stephanie Brown storyline is kind of getting thrown aside a little bit. But I mean, I have a feeling DC has huge plans for her, and I'm sure that includes a solo series. But right now, I feel like her story was the most compelling, and it's kind of fallen to the wayside a little bit. But then it also presents the problem that the Commissioner Gordon storyline is really good. So then you do want to see the Batgirl, Batwoman, and Red Hood team up, because that's tied to that. But then at the same time, you also want to see what Batman's up to with Killer Croc, because he's actually working to get to the bottom of whoever's doing this to Commissioner Gordon.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a weird nitpick that I have.
Because you like certain things that's going on, but at the same time, there are certain things that deserve a little more attention than other things.
As I feel like the Jim Corrigan and Batwing storyline is the weakest, but it's not bad. It's not bad anymore. It was very meh, so it wasn't even bad to begin with. It was just kind of there. Now it's like you finally get into it, and you're not hating the Joker's daughter entirely, and and you're almost like, okay, well now we're just gonna skip. And it's fine, because this is what weekly series do. 52 did this, and that's like the pinnacle of like weekly series. So did that too. But it's very strange. But I am enjoying it. Yeah, no, go ahead.
Like the fact that matters, it better be picking up some traction, because Batwing just ended this week with issue number 34.
Yeah.
Rest in peace. And I will smack someone that right now he's still ongoing in something, and it's not good.
Yeah, I mean, he's not gone. He is. I mean, no character in the Bat family is ever truly gone, because they will always show up and have some, reason to be around, which is great, because that's how you want it to be. But I just wish that story had gone on a little bit longer, because it had been picked up again this week, because I feel like it wasn't really done.
Mhm.
All right. So I mean, it's a solid series. It's a solid. I'm enjoying this more than Future's End. I'll tell you that.
Oh yeah.
I mean, and I'm still reading Future's End. I'm still caught up with it. I'm enjoying this more than Future's End.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm like an issue behind on Future's End.
Yeah, I mean, it's not bad. It's not bad. I think it's getting a lot of bad press for whatever reason, but I don't think it's a bad book. There's far worse. Far worse.
Yeah, there is. I mean, like my only excuse for being behind is that I'd rather just read a lot of it all together than just one issue at a time, because a lot of what goes on in Future's End is still fairly new to me, just with the characters alone.
Yeah. All right, so I think we'll jump into Nailbiter because I think we're gonna save Superior Spider-Man for last. So Nailbiter this week was the best issue so far,
Yes.
which is saying a lot because this has been very good since the beginning. So
And the fourth issue.
Yes. So basically, all right. At this point, Edward Warren is in jail, and Crane and Finch are at the cemetery where all the serial killers are buried, looking for more answers as to A, what happened to Finch's partner, and B, what is going on in that town. Because as you remember, there's a kid whose body is strewn up against a sign. So basically they're in the cemetery, they're looking around. The mystery killer from previous issue is at the cemetery and starts shooting at them, and it's revealed to be another kid. And he ends up shooting himself right before hinting that there's a curse on the town. And then at the end, in what completely evokes True Detective, Finch is in this cellar, almost like this chamber that looks like the final episode of True Detective. And shocker of all shockers, he finds his partner there, alive, but with no arms and legs.
Oh, that was so sad.
I am totally in love with Nailbiter. Nailbiter is a book that I am going to stick with. I am not giving that book up. I love it. I think it's like, it's got the perfect blend of horror and crime, and this issue more than anything was focused on the crime, but I like that there's also this very, very small, subtle supernatural aspect, because it almost feels like there is going to actually be a curse on this town.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really awesome because Joshua Williamson does this in Ghosted. He sets a very scary fictional story in a world that you actually think is real. And the town that this exists in is real. It feels like a real place, but with all these extra things on top of it. So it's very cool to see that kind of that whole thing happen in one book. And I mean, I love Crane and Finch, especially since they're a team that isn't spending all the time in the world fighting with each other about their differences, which you see in like every detective story ever.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's like Law and Order or even True Detective, they're spending time disagreeing about their differences. And it's like these two are just working together. This is what they're doing. They're trying to find his partner. They're trying to figure out what's going on with this town. That's your story. I love it. I thought this issue was just fantastic. I love the ending. I love that there's something bigger going on in this town. The whole thing is just so great to me.
And the pressure is definitely starting to get to these two, because they just don't know what they're getting themselves into.
No, they don't, and that's what's exciting, because they just don't know, and that's the fear of any kind of detective story, is you don't know what's going to happen, and especially one like this where it's as unpredictable as possible. I mean, I thought this killer in this issue was going to be around a lot longer than he was. I thought this was going to be a whole subplot, but clearly the town is the story, and I'm my only downside to this is I don't know where Edward Warren fits into this.
Yeah, especially that little scene that happened in between all the action
With Alice.
Yep. It's like, what connection to all this could she possibly have?
And I almost feel like it seems too predictable, but I don't want this to not happen. I feel like he has to team up with Crane and Finch in a big capacity, because the book is called Nailbiter. So he's the namesake of this book, and I don't feel like he has that much of a part in it.
Mm-hmm. At the moment, it just feels like he's the scapegoat for whatever's going on.
Yeah, I mean, that's really my only thing about it, but I love the mood. I think the art is beautiful.
Yep.
I think Mike Henderson is doing an amazing job on the art.
Like it doesn't need to do anything special. It just needs to capture the mysterious atmosphere around whatever everything going on. Even just the look of terror on Carol's face when they find him.
Yeah, and I think that is the special. I think that is what he does so special. It's because I don't see any other artist doing this book. It's like it's a very distinct style in a very distinct book. So I mean, it's very enjoyable on many different levels.
Hmm.
All right, so let's move into our final book of the evening. Superior Spider-Man number 32. Yes. All right, so I guess I'll just break this down very easily. So this Superior Spider-Man 32 is seemingly this will be the final issue we ever get of Otto, because from what happens, this is the only way it makes sense. The events of this book take place after number 19 when Miguel O'Hara comes into the main Marvel universe. Um, Otto is sent back to Miguel's time, well, into the future. He's sent into his time in exchange for Miguel because basically that's how time travel works in this situation. One for one. And he's picked up by Miguel's brother, and he's brought to Miguel's home, and you know, he's getting used to this world until he can get back. And there is somebody gunning for Spider-Man. He starts, you know, he tries to do time travel, and he ends up just hopping to different dimensions, and he discovers that there's this killer that's killing all the Spider-Men in every, you know, universe that he goes to. So he starts rounding up the ones that he finds, and that's how the Edge of the Spider-Verse storyline starts. That's what this issue does. It sets that whole thing up. There were some really interesting Spider-Men. I do have to mention that I absolutely loved having Otto back, and I especially found it cute that he made the hologram look like Anna Maria.
Yeah, I knew that had to happen.
Which actually was more sad because I feel like Anna Maria got such a bad deal in all of this. You know, like Peter Parker's not her Spider-Man, Otto is. You know, she's so perfect for him, and you know, now he's gone. But I mean, as a start to the Spider-Verse story, I loved it. There was no Peter Parker, which I have to be honest, I don't hate Peter Parker, but I'm surprised. Because now I want to know where he comes into this.
Yeah, that's true. That really did throw me off a bit, but I was still too excited for the fact that this is Otto, and you know that if someone's out there trying to kill Spider-Man, he's not going to run. He's going to kill this person back.
Yeah, I mean, he rounded up a lot of the Spider-Men who were still alive that he found, and they're very different, and we're going to get into some of them because there's going to be tie-ins that focus on some of these Spider-Men, and I am really interested to see where this goes. I didn't think I'd be as interested, and I don't know what I thought this issue would be, but it's definitely superseded any weird ideas I had. But I am really curious now to read the next issue of Amazing Spider-Man because I am not sure how Peter fits in. I'm wondering if Otto stumbles upon the future of his own timeline and gets Peter. And then in that situation, you know, is there a chance for Otto to ever somehow come back through time? You know, is there room for another Spider-Man book?
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, I enjoyed this book, and I really didn't think I'd be into the Spider-Verse storyline, but I will say this, though, for Dan Slott, like, I know people criticize some of what he's done in Spider-Man, but he knows how to do an event.
Mm-hmm.
Because there hasn't been a Spider-Man event that I haven't enjoyed. I think I was a little let down by how Otto left the whole thing. just because it felt kind of rushed, but he really doesn't write a bad event.
That's true. I mean, like when it is Superior Spider-Man that gets me into the event, that alone is good enough for me to invest some time in it.
Yeah, I just the whole time travel aspect is very interesting because again, this is in issue 19. So it's almost like Peter is on the covers, he's advertised for it, but I'm starting to think this might not even be current Peter, that this might be a past Peter Parker. Wouldn't it be something if we got a pre-death of Gwen Stacy Peter Parker?
That would actually be cool.
Like, because that Peter Parker was full of all the hope in the world.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I mean, like...
Oh, go ahead.
I like what I'm really liking about this is that it feels like you would like this for the same reason you like Batman Eternal.
Mm-hmm.
It just focuses on everything you like about Spider-Man. I don't want to say Spider-Man, Spider-Men, about their world in general, and it's just all put out there for you to enjoy. So it's like there's a lot of opportunities and advantages to take from this, and so far he's already taken one with Superior Spider-Man. Now we just have to see what he does with the rest of them, or whatever surprises he can drag from these different dimensions or even the past.
Yeah. Nevertheless, we're both very excited for it. Definitely something people are going to keep their eyes on. So, that wraps up our show. We got our 3 reviews in. We talked a little bit about news, so now we're just going to plug the site. You can watch this episode, listen to this episode on Podbean, watch this on YouTube, or, find it on geekedoutnation.com. We have every episode available on there. We also have tons of reviews. Just, plugging ourselves for a minute, this week I did reviews for Enormous #2, Earth 2, #26, an original graphic novel from Oni Press called I Was the Cat, which is awesome. And I also did a review for Nailbiter #4. And Jadobi, what did you write up?
This week I did a review for Harbinger Omega's #1, Knuckleheads #8, Angel and Faith Season 10 #5, Batwing #34, Injustice Gods Among Us Year 2 #18, Skyman Volume 1, and Swamp Thing #34.
Awesome. All right. So, and you can also find reviews on the site for New Avengers, Lazarus. We'll have stuff up next weekend. We also have a flashback review for A Tale of the Batman Gotham by Gaslight. And we have tons of lists on there, lots of reviews for other stuff. Jadobi has a feature every week called Off the Panel. This weekend we'll have a list of 5 female characters who deserve their own solo titles, so that'll be interesting to check out. And as always, you have to check us out on the website, www.geekedoutnation.com. Find us on Twitter @geekedoutnation. I can be found on Twitter @CamachoJess. Jadobi, where can people find you?
You can find me at NewGenXman.
Awesome. All right, so, as always, thank you for listening, and, leave us comments, stuff you want us to talk about, things you want us to debate, just even, tell us we suck or whatever, whatever you want to leave us, just leave us something that we know people are listening. All right, so with that said, have a great one, everybody, and that's it for episode 24.
Good night.